What's going on YouTube? Brad and Kyle here today, and we are going to talk to you about how to hook the bowling ball like the pros, the three main things we do to get the bowling ball to hook on that lane. Stay tuned. All right, Brad, so there's a lot of things that we do to get the bowling ball to hook more, to get the hook less, and we dialed into the three main things. Now, the first one is gonna seem super simple, and it's a change that we make 2 to 3 times, maybe more if we're not bowling very good, and that's the bowling ball itself.
And it's somewhat of a complicated subject too, because bowling balls there's a lot of them out there, and all of them are made to just be a little bit different from each other. That way bowlers can have a plethora of different bowling balls that they could choose from. And if you need more hook, you have it, right? So we're gonna show you 2 bowling balls, some of my favorites. The 900 Global Reality. It's probably my favorite ball that's meant to hook a lot, higher price point. And then we have a trusty old High Road that's been out forever and we still throw, but clearly these balls are designed to do 2 completely different things.
Absolutely. So now let's throw a shot with each of them so the viewer can see how much different reaction they are.
All right, 900 Global Reality, big, strong, asymmetric, high price point. That was pretty good.
That was good. So we have a long pattern out here today, a pattern with a lot of oil on it. The Reality is going to be a ball that you're probably going to choose to bowl to use that fresh out of the gate on this long pattern.
Yeah, I mean, it's meant to hook the most, but it's also in a way more controllable as well. So we use a lot of these higher end balls that are supposed to hook a lot on fresh patterns because, yeah, they're supposed to hook a lot more, but they also give us more control than the balls that don't hook a lot.
So now let's get a shot with the High Road and see what the difference is going to be between the 2 options. So High Road, probably not something you're going to use on the fresh on this pattern.
No, too clean, goes too long down the lane. If I throw this faster, don't make fun.
Perfect. So you can see that ball 2 pins. The balls rolled completely different. They're supposed to. They both have completely different dynamics. So now, for you guys at home, a super easy way to change your ball reaction just by changing balls. So I think that's why it's so important to have a well-balanced arsenal.
And there's a lot of different things you can do. I mean, you can drill them differently. You can put the pin different places. There's a lot you could do. A big thing is just trial and error. Like, if you need more hook, go to a ball that's supposed to hook more and see what happens.
Exactly. So, guys, change balls. It's going to be the easiest way to get your ball to hook more or less without having to do anything, without having to impart anything onto the ball. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is ball speed. Now, this is what determines your reaction the most on a drastic scale. If you throw it super hard, the ball's not going to hook a lot, and vice versa. If you throw it slow, the ball is going to hook a lot more. When you throw it slow, you're giving that ball time to hook, and vice versa. When you throw that thing fast, well, that thing's getting down there and doesn't have a lot of time.
That's a great point. I mean, these bowling balls are fantastic, but the second it leaves your hand, you can't control that bowling ball anymore. So there's an element of, not being able to control the outcome when we just talk about bowling balls. When it comes to ball speed, you have every ounce of control when it comes to that. I mean, you can throw it slow, you can throw it fast. That is all on you. Like,
absolutely.
Once it leaves your hand, it's not a matter of the ball, more ball speed and whatnot. So
Brad, I want you to get lined up with the Reality, and let's throw a shot fast here. Now,
okay.
Let me get you a full rack here.
And my students, I tell everybody, like, if you're interested.
No reset button.
If you're interested in hooking a bowling ball, you can always throw it slower. And it's a tricky subject because we see the pros on television throwing it 19 mile an hour. And that's a weird number. I'd say most people, especially on tour, they're throwing at 15, 16 mile an hour. I mean, how many times has Belmo just crushed us?
Oh, he is.
And he's higher rev rate and slower ball speed than us. So the ball speed thing, I think, is, important. One of the most important things because it's something you can control and it definitely dictates whether it's going to hook or not.
So I'll ask you a question. If you were going to bowl on this right now, would you have a higher ball speed or a lower ball speed?
Lower ball speed.
Okay, so let's get lined up, strike shot right now with your lower ball speed, and let's see how it looks.
Okay.
Good. So that was nice, soft hand, slower ball speed. You gave that ball plenty of time to react. Now, let's throw a shot. I don't want you to move at all. but this is where it gets tricky. I know this might seem elementary for some of you guys watching, but now same idea, same line, same place in your feet, but I just want you to throw it faster.
Okay.
So we can see we still hit the pocket, but
that was just a little faster.
That wasn't crazy fast. We can see just by changing the ball speed, you went from going dead flush, perfect shot to now going light.
And that was not much faster than the one before, and it still came up pretty light. So ball speed's,
yeah, and the ball hooked more on the shot you threw it slower, and it didn't hook as much on the shot you threw it faster. That's why for you guys at home, it's so important to have control of that ball speed, and when there's a certain speed that you need to be throwing, you need to be really close to that range. If it's 16.5 miles an hour, well, you want to stay around 16.5, because all of a sudden if you throw it 17, well, that ball is going to do something completely different.
And if you desperately need a lot of hook, if you're not getting any, it's okay to throw at 13 mile an hour. There's nothing wrong with that. I throw at 13 mile an hour maybe that's my problem, but like if your goal is to get the ball to hook, slow it down. Just throw it slower. It's that simple to me.
Absolutely. So those are the first two. Those are probably the main two adjustments that we use on the PBA Tour tournaments all the time. Balls, different bowling balls, and ball speed. Now the third one we're going to talk about today is our hand position, our rotation. It is a huge deal on what is going to translate on the lane. I mean, the main thing we're going to talk about is we either really come up the back of the ball, or then we start getting our hand to rotate around it. Now, Brad, what happens when you come up the back versus starting to get around the bowling ball?
So it's just it's a spin thing, right? If the ball's spinning this way, the second that ball kind of activates and starts hooking, it's going to go in the direction of the roll. So if our hand's completely around the side of it and it's spinning sideways, well, the second that thing starts to hook, it's going to want to go sideways. And then if your hand's up the back and the spin and the roll of the ball is forward, when that thing starts to hook, well, then it's going to want to go forward. And bowling, it really comes down to it's a game of angles, really. It's, some people can be doing the exact same thing. One person's creating a little bit different angle, and that could be the difference between 270 and 190. It's really an angle game. So the hand position part is really important because that really dictates the shape of the ball, once it leaves our hand.
Yeah, I mean, without trying to get too technical in it, in layman's terms, when we start coming up the back, well, that ball is going to want to hook earlier and be smoother, and we start getting around the ball, then that ball is going to want to really skid down the lane and be really sharp down lane. So I'm not saying that neither one is bad. It just depends on what that lane is telling you to do, and then whether you need to come up the back or add some more rotation.
And if you think about it, if you're trying to play a little straighter and your angles are more in front of you, but your hand's around the side of it, well, then how is that ball supposed to stay on line? It's everything straight, but the way we're releasing it is telling the ball to go this way, and that makes it very hard to consistently strike when you're playing straight, and on vice versa. If you're playing left, well, then if your hand's dead up the back and you're playing these big angles, well, it's not going to have the turn to get it back to the pocket. It's just going to roll out and go straight.
Exactly.
So it depends on where you're playing, but it's pretty basic. The straighter you are, a lot of times the more back you want to be, the more you're hooking it. Sometimes, getting around it's fine.
All right, so let's throw two more shots, and I'm going to challenge you here.
Oh,
So same idea. You can keep the same slow ball speed wherever you were lined up there. I want this first shot to be as up the back of it as you can. Not worrying about striking, but no rotation.
Okay.
Let's see if you can do it. Putting him on the spot here.
All right.
Said no striking, fam.
Well, I can't.
No, that was good. That was low.
Yeah.
That was lower rotation. When we start talking about rotation, 20, anything less than 20 degrees, 15 degrees, your ball is not going to hook. That's kind of like a spare shot, but that is pretty up the back. And you see that ball was very smooth, didn't have a lot of energy down the lane.
Hooked and kind of went straight.
Yeah.
Now, if we want control, that's kind of what we want. The second you start to get around it, we lose control, but if the angle you're playing is necessary, then it could work.
So let's throw one more shot, same thing, but now I want you to get around it as much as possible, and let's see the difference in reaction.
Much as possible.
Let's get extreme here. Oh, daddy.
Now, I want to say
That
something.
was interesting.
It's really hard to get that ball to go sideways because it's designed to hook so early that, you know, it just likes to flatten out. So even though I got way around that one, it still wasn't necessarily too sideways because the ball's just so strong.
Well, when I was watching that shot, you know, for me, for a second, you know, we talk about getting around it. That ball skates down the lane. When you get around it, it likes to go further down the lane
Yes.
until it wants to hook. You're delaying like that hook. And for a second, I thought it was going to miss the pocket. And then all of a sudden, it just went this way.
I know.
So it was crazy. So that is so you can just see there, that was an extreme example, but the hand position that we impart on the bowling ball makes a huge difference in the reaction.
And to be fair, I know one struck and one, I guess, still struck, but it didn't look as good. I would not get around it, simply because, like you said, the more you get around it, the harder it is to control, the longer it goes down the lane, and sometimes that's okay, but for the most part, if you want to be a good bowler that hooks the ball well, you need the ball to like read early and somewhat be controllable. Now notice, we're not saying anything about rev rate right now.
No.
It's not a rev rate thing. I mean, it can be, and it can be a part of the puzzle and get you to do some things that your opponents can't, but for the most part, rev rate it can be a bad thing in certain aspects, and it definitely isn't something to focus on. I would focus on these three things before, but it's so, like, everybody's high rev rate now.
It is,
and when
yeah.
you're looking around and they're hooking the ball so much, it can make you think like you need to increase your revs, but that's just not the case. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, rev rate is a big thing. Like, you want to have revs. You know, I think younger kids should strive to have revs. But the reason we don't talk about it in this change is because it's very hard to change your rev rate once you have a certain rev rate. Once, if you've been bowling for a while, it's not something that's hard to control. Another thing that we didn't talk about today is axis tilt, because tilt is also a hard thing to change. It's not something that we use. So these are the main three things, adjustments that we use to change how much our bowling ball hooks. So I hope that helped you out today, guys.
All right, guys, well, thank you for watching the video. And just to go over those three things, the bowling ball matters. A lot of different ones. Ask your local pro shop person what ball would fit you best. The next thing, ball speed. Just if you want more hook, drop it. You don't have to throw it 19 mile an hour. It can be soft and slow. Some of the best bowlers we've ever seen, Tom Baker, there's been a lot of slow. And it's mostly slow because that's how we control it. And then the third thing is your hand position. Not necessarily a rev rate thing, more so the placement of your hand. Up the back of it gives you control and straighter angles. Around it allows you to feed the ball a little bit farther down the lane and play a little bit farther left. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully it helps you in your leagues or tournaments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next.
Subscribe to the channel.